Billions of dollars have been added to business costs over the past 8 years or so. Becky has a question, Mr. Trump.
Mr. Trump,
Hi,
Mr. Trump. You referred to what Mark Weinberger was just saying right before you were on, the global head of Ernst & Young. And part of what he was saying is that he doesn't hear it from either candidate. He didn't endorse one candidate or the other, but he said that the business community is concerned because they're not hearing enough about things like trade or immigration, or at least they're not hearing things that they want to hear. How do you reassure some of those global leaders that it is something that you're working on and you'll have policies that will reflect what they want to see?
Well, I'd love to speak to Mark directly if he would want, but I think I've addressed certainly trade, those two things, between immigration,
where
people
are pouring across.
I mean, I'm the king of illegal immigration. I will stop it. And nobody talks about it more than I do, and we have to stop it. Not only immigration, the drugs that are pouring across. You know, our youth is being poisoned. You go to places like New Hampshire, where it's their #1 thing, heroin, and it comes from the southern border. And you go to Ohio, as an example. I was there 2 days ago, and the biggest complaint they have is what's pouring into their, it's poisoning the youth of our country, and lots of other people, by the way. So nobody talks about that more than I do. It's my issue. And Hillary Clinton wants to let people she just wants to have open borders and let whoever wants to come into the country come in and let the drugs pour in. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's really ridiculous. And as far as trade is concerned, and it's off. I am a free trader, first of all, totally free trader. I think Joe knows that. I think you know that, Becky. But I want to make good trade deals. And a lot of times I'll say, like, we have to renegotiate NAFTA, which is a disaster for our country. NAFTA is the worst trade deal ever made in the history, not of this country, in the history of the world. It has just absolutely drained our country of businesses. And what I want to do is renegotiate NAFTA. So when people hear that, they say, oh, he's against trade. I'm not against trade. I just want to make good deals. NAFTA is a one-way street into Mexico and other places. It's a one-way street. Nothing comes in here. What comes to our country through NAFTA? It's a one-way street to the poorhouse. And I have to tell you, we're losing our businesses on a daily basis going into different countries, but Mexico is like the 8th wonder of the world. And I told you, I have a friend who builds plants. He builds big plants. He tells me the plants he's building in Mexico are unbelievable, what's happening. And then I said, how are we doing in the United States? He goes, not so good. It's terrible. So I want to renegotiate trade deals and make them great. I better make the trade deals great.
Speaking of Mexico,
people should be happy about that, not upset about it.
Speaking of Mexico, your recent visit there afterwards, the finance minister there, Luis Videgaray, resigned and stepped down in what was seen as a huge hit to the president there. He was a guy who was educated in the United States, and if you talk to American business leaders, was really paving the way for more American investment in Mexico and some cross-work back and forth. Are you sorry to see him go?
I am. Luis is a great guy. Luis said that, Mr. Trump is doing very well in this campaign. As you know, we're really doing well now, and we're doing well in the swing states. We're leading in many polls, and we're leading in the overall poll. CNN just came out with a number that I'm leading by 2 points overall. We're doing very well, and I think we're going to start to do even beyond that. We have a tremendous schedule to go, and even today I'm going to 3 different states. So, Luis saw that, and he wanted to arrange a meeting, and I think it was a very positive meeting. I think they lost a tremendous talent with him, and I believe he'll be back in Mexico. I really do. I think he'll be back at a high level. He is a really good guy and a really good talent, and I think that I think he probably got a lot of publicity. It was certainly good for our country, the meeting I had. I think it was very good for the United States. Perhaps it wasn't perfect for Mexico, but Mexico has to also understand it is not a one-way street. We have to get something out of these deals also. We're getting nothing.
When shifting gears to our bread and butter, Mr. Trump, that is business issues in the Fed. We're so obsessed with the Fed. You made some comments a week or 2 ago about artificial markets. The first time, maybe 3 or 4 months ago when we talked about it, as a real estate guy, you said, geez, I like low interest rates. Low interest rates are great. I think I don't know whether your position shifted a little because the Fed has been at zero for so long that everybody's wondering, it doesn't seem to be doing that much. Are there negative effects? And you sort of, I don't know, don't want to speak for you, but did you come to the conclusion that maybe you can't stay at zero forever? And what do you think they should do in September?
Well, it's staying at zero because she's obviously political, and she's doing what Obama wants her to do. And I know that's not supposed to be the way it is, but that's why it's low, because as soon as they go up, your stock market's going to go way down, most likely or possibly. And don't forget, I called Brexit. I did a lot of calling. And what they're doing is, I believe it's a false market because money is essentially free. I don't even invest in the stock market, and I think you saw the stocks I bought. I bought a lot of stock. I'm not a stock market guy, and I bought it because it's like I didn't use borrowed money when I invested, but it's like free money. And the stocks went way up, and then I sold them because when I did this, when I decided to do this, I figured maybe there's a conflict of interest. Who knows? With them they accuse you of anything, so I figured I'd sell. But anybody could have made money. But let's see what happens when interest rates go up. Now I think they're keeping them down, and they'll keep them down even longer. And any increase at all will be a very, very small increase, Joe, because, they want to keep the market up so that Obama goes out and let the new guy, whoever that let's call it the new guy, okay, because I like the sound of that much better, but that the new person that becomes president, let him raise interest rates or her raise interest rates, and watch what happens to the stock market when that happens, okay? Because you have no choice. And the people that were hurt the worst are people that saved their money all their lives and thought they were going to live off their interest, and those people are getting just absolutely creamed. In other words, the ones that did it right, they saved their money, they cut down on their mortgages, they did all of the things, they did everything exactly right, and now they're getting practically zero interest on the money that they worked so hard for over 40 years. I mean, those people have really been, you could almost say, discriminated against. No, the interest rates are kept down by President Obama. I have no doubt that that's the reason that they are being kept down. Now, as a real estate person, I love it, but I'm not really, for the last 14 months, I haven't been exactly active in this. I do run my business, and I do spend a lot of time on my business. I have to be honest with you, because I'm running both a campaign and I'm running a business, which is not so easy. But, I certainly haven't done as many deals as I would normally do. But I love low interest rates. But for the country, something has to happen. I don't think it's going to happen very much because he wants to go out, he wants to play golf for the rest of his life, and he doesn't care what's going to happen after January.
Well, let's say that, Donald, we do some of this stuff. Let's say we cut taxes, and let's say that we can't find enough waste in the government to pay for everything. We do infrastructure. We've already got this incredible deficit run up to where we're paying interest on that. If rates go up, what are we going to do with it? It's going to be much more expensive to try to fund what we've already done.
Well, it's a tremendous problem for the country because, look, we're talking about rates that are practically at zero. If I refinance something, I get money for like almost nothing. And, to a certain extent, it's wonderful. I love it. I'm getting as much long-term stuff as I can, but I have very little debt. But I will tell you this, Joe, that at some point, if rates ever go up to a more natural level, these are the lowest rates in history. If rates go up, we have $20 trillion. We've doubled our debt under Obama, doubled it. He's exactly, by the time he leaves, it'll more than have doubled in 8 years. So in 8 years, we've doubled what's happened over hundreds of years. I mean, think of it. So we've doubled the debt over this last 8-year period. And the worst part about the doubling of the debt, we haven't got anything from it. What have we done? We haven't rebuilt our bridges. We haven't rebuilt our highways. We haven't rebuilt our roads or our airports. Our airports are a disaster. Our roadways and our tunnels are in danger. I mean, the whole thing is a mess. So we're at $20 trillion, and our infrastructure is a disaster. We've spent $6 trillion in the Middle East. We could have rebuilt our country twice. We spent $6 trillion in the Middle East because we're run by politicians that don't know what they're doing. They don't have a clue. and our country's in trouble. So think of it. You know, it's one thing if we had 20 trillion, as crazy as that number is, but our roadways are new and our bridges are beautiful. You know, our bridges, many of them are in danger of falling down. You see the reports. And it's a very, very sad thing what's going on. So we have a country that needs massive investment, and at the same time, we're at $20 trillion.
Mr. Trump, can I go back to the Fed for just a moment? Because what you said about Janet Yellen, about how she's obviously political, you said, and she's doing what Obama wants her to do. I mean, that plays into a stream that we've seen from the left as well. Just last week, Senator Elizabeth Warren was working with a group called Fed Up, where they're trying to put constraints on the Fed and get their arms around it a little more. I wonder, in a Trump administration, would you be trying to put more constraints on the Fed as well?
Well, what I'd want to do is have a policy. I wouldn't go by what Pocahontas wants you to do, because her agenda is obvious. I mean, she's a disaster. She's also one of the least effective senators in the United States Senate. Nobody really understands that, but she's done nothing. But I would want to have a policy where we can start to at least gently reduce debt. We can get things under control, because right now it's not under control. What happens if interest rates go up, fairly substantially? And with all of the money we have and we are borrowing, you know what that does to our balance sheet?
No,
I mean,
obviously.
That's
It's
a cost
huge,
that's beyond belief. Everybody's figuring these crazy low interest rates. Well, they're not always going to be this way.
Right.
And it won't be able to be this way because of market and market competition. And what's going to happen when interest rates go up? And they could go up. Hey, I was there with Jimmy Carter, where interest rates, I think the prime rate went to 21 or 22%. You're probably too young to remember those days.
No, I remember. My parents had a crazy high, like 18% mortgage rate at one point. It was insane.
I mean, it was, but I saw it, 21%.
Yeah.
I think the prime rate went to 21%. So, you think that can never happen again. It's like the baseball players, they have a good season, and then they go out and they live like they're going to have their season for the rest of their lives, and it doesn't work out that way. That's what we're doing. We're living like we're going to have no interest rate, because we're paying almost no interest. That's, the numbers are so low. Now, she's keeping them artificially low to get Obama retired. Watch what's going to happen afterwards. It's a very serious problem. And I think it's very political. I think she's very political. And to a certain extent, I think she should be ashamed of herself.
But this gets to the question of
the
question of Fed independence. I mean, we have this notion that the Federal Reserve operates independently from the administration, from Congress, and there are questions on all sides surrounding the Fed right now about people who think that they are not, and finding ways to do that. I guess the question of Fed independence is the biggest one I have.
Well, I used to think that the Justice Department worked independently also, and I used to think that the FBI was independent also, but that's obviously not possible because Hillary Clinton is guilty as hell, and everybody knows it. Any third-rate lawyer will tell you that. I mean, it's obvious. Just all you have to do is read and watch. So I used to think they were independent. I used to hope that the Fed was independent, and the Fed is obviously not independent. It's obviously not even close to being independent.
I guess you saw the market reaction to Brexit was not what any economist expected. In fact, Christine Lagarde, Mr. Trump, said that she's talked to all the best economists in the world, and it was going to be an unmitigated disaster if Britain voted to leave. And instead, I mean, not only has the stock market done better, but a lot of the economic metrics have improved there, and because of the weaker pound and everything else. Is that, do you think, an indication that maybe, I mean, globalization is important, but then again, so is looking out for number one, in this case, whether it's Britain or the United States. Maybe there is something to that.
Well, they call me Mr. Brexit over there, so we'll see what happens. I will tell you, I predicted, I called that. I took such heat, Joe, you wouldn't believe it. But I said, I think it's going to pass because I own Turnberry in Scotland, and I own a lot of other property in UK. And they asked me 2 weeks before when it wasn't fashionable, and I said, no, I think it's going to pass because the people want independence. They're tired of taking in people from other countries that, potentially want to blow them up. And the people of the UK were very, very smart, and it passed, and I thought it would pass. And Obama said if it passes, they're getting to the back of the line, which I actually think helped it pass, if you want to know the truth. But that's the way it is. They wanted independence. I think it was very smart. And I think UK is going to do better because of it, because the whole thing with tying it all up like that, it's been a terrible thing. I needed certain approvals on a job, and I could get them from the country, but I couldn't get them nationally. It was impossible to get anything approved. It was horrible. And they wanted the UK taken today. It would do even better. They're very happy about it. And I, as an investor over there, big investor over there, having tremendous properties over there, I like it better.
You made some comments about the president's recent trip to Asia as well, in terms of, I don't know, it not being as maybe well received as the head of the the leader of the free world should be. Any additional comments on that?
Well, when you say well received, they wouldn't even give him a stare to get out of the plane, Joe. That's called not so well received. I mean, the guy couldn't get out of the airplane. This is the first time that the great Air Force One, with its incredible history, has landed where they wouldn't give him stairs to get out of his airplane, okay? It was terrible. He had to get out of the they call it the mechanic stairs. That's the stairs they use to fix the plane, when somebody has to run up and fix a light bulb, right? So this is our president. And by the way, shortly before, they showed other heads of state from other countries coming down on these magnificent stairways with red carpet. He came down on the mechanic stair. And don't forget, when he landed in Cuba, Castro wasn't there to greet him. When he landed in Saudi Arabia, no high officials were there to greet him. Now, the difference between me and him, if I would have landed in Cuba, first of all, I would have made a much better deal than he made, but that's okay. And if somebody top wasn't there to greet, not me, but our nation, because it's really our nation, I would have told the captain, close up the doors, let's go back to Washington. And the same thing with Saudi Arabia. And frankly, the same thing with China. I've never seen anything like it. They were standing there. They would not provide them with a stair, and his people were fighting on the runway with the Chinese officials. You saw that. What a sign of total disrespect. It's like the Iranians running their little boats all around our destroyers and making crude gestures at our sailors. It's like that. And, you say, how does this happen? Or like the Iranians where they captured our 10 sailors, Joe, and they wouldn't have ever given them back unless, the only problem was the money started pouring in, so they had to give them back because they wanted the $150 billion, which payments started 2 days after that. So obviously they gave them back only for that reason. If it weren't for that, they would have kept them, they'd still be there. So there's a great lack of respect. But what I saw in China, where they wouldn't provide stairs coming out of Air Force One, they wouldn't do it. It was, to me, incredible.
Mr. Trump, you're known as a great negotiator with the art of the deal. You've mentioned yourself that you would negotiate better terms in a lot of these deals. I wonder what you would do about North Korea, because after this latest nuclear bomb that they've set off, the latest I read this morning was that the North Koreans are saying that this is laughable, the idea of additional sanctions. How would you get a better deal when you're potentially dealing with a madman?
Well, we're dealing with a man who is got some difficulties. There's no question about it. But I will say this. Look, China has tremendous power over North Korea, tremendous power. And also, Iran is one of their biggest trading partners. Now, when we made this horrible Iran deal, one of the most incompetent deals I've ever seen, they should have put in things like you got to stop fighting in Yemen, you have to help us with North Korea, because they're one of the biggest trading partners. Iran actually has a certain degree of power over North Korea. But the one who really has power, who can cut them off completely, is China. Now, China doesn't like to say that they have power because, they want to tweak the United States. Look what China's doing. They're building in the South China Sea a massive military fortress. Now, we have a lot of power over China because they suck us dry. They take out, and I like the Chinese. Look, I have the biggest bank in the world as my tenant and all of the different things. I mean, I have great relationships with China. And they know what I say is true. In fact, this tenant just renewed their lease. I couldn't believe it. Actually, I figured, they'd never, why would they renew their lease with me, right? But they just renewed their lease. They obviously like the building. But, we have tremendous power over China because they suck so much money out of the United States. We should get China to fix that problem. We should use our economic power, because without us, China would be in serious trouble. They take tremendous amounts of dollars out of the United States. Without us, China would be in tremendous problem, and we should be able to do that. But we don't have leadership. We don't have the people that can get them to do that. And when you ask the Chinese, oh, well, we don't want to get involved, okay? They don't want to get involved. Well, in the meantime, this guy is developing the real deal. You know, 2 years ago they were saying, oh, he couldn't lift off the rocket ships. Well, now they're the real deal, and it's getting better and better all the time. And he's, I think, being helped by Iran. Okay, I think they're being helped by Iran. But you look at their technology, and it's getting better all the time. And something damn well better be done fairly soon, because once he's set, you know, as you say, he may be or he may not be a madman, but he's got evil intentions. There's no question about it.
You know, when you refer to China, they are sucking a lot out of us in terms of the economy, but they also own, I believe, the largest percentage of our debt. So they have a big chit with us as well, something like $1.2 trillion.
Well, it's all the more power we have over them, okay? We have more power. Because of that, we have more power over them. You do understand that, right, Becky?
Because of the idea that if you owe the bank $100, they owe you. If you owe them.
Look, we owe China $2 trillion, okay?
Yeah.
$2 trillion. I mean, hard to believe, but that's what it is. Think of it. They suck the blood out of us, and we owe them money. That's a hard one to do. They're magicians. Right? They take our money out, and we owe them money on top of it.
Right.
So I call them great magicians.
But we wouldn't default on that debt. I mean, that's U.S. sovereign debt.
No, you're not going to default on that debt, but we have a lot of power.
Yeah.
We have a lot of power. No, we would not default on the debt, although you could make the case. I mean, China's defaulted with us because if you look at what they're doing with intellectual property, $300 billion a year. I mean, you look at what they're doing with the way they steal our intellectual property, our intellectual rights. I mean, it's crazy what they're doing. I mean, you know, there's like no laws that pertain to them. So you could certainly make a case in a court. What they have done to us is incredible. We don't have, and then they come over and they get state dinners. Okay, we give them state dinners.
We're looking.
It's a very sad thing. How China has out-negotiated us. It's very sad. China could solve the problem we have with North Korea in one day if they wanted to.
So we got a couple more. Well, I don't know how much time we have left, but I want to talk about the debates and how you're prepping for those, whether you like the moderators that are selected. And you know, I'd like to see what we've been talking about, you know, instead of, you know, maybe ad hominem stuff that we're probably going to get, Mr. Trump. But it'd be great to have some discussion we just had. Real quickly, in the Wall Street Journal. So the Wall Street Journal isn't, you know, if you're going to get a somewhat objective treatment, I figure you're going to have to look here. But the headline today, are Clinton and Trump healthy enough to serve? So at least they addressed the Clinton issue, but they had to throw you in there too as well. Would you release? Yeah, exactly. Would you release your full health records if she releases her?
Well, Joe, you know what I did? You'll be very proud of me. I saw what was going on with her, and I said, you know, I'm going to go do something. And I actually took a physical last week, and we'll probably, I guess this week we announced the results of it. They come in. I did pretty much the whole deal. And because I think we should. I think we should do that. And so I'll be announcing, sometime during the week, I'll be handing out a paper with very large numbers of very detailed, hopefully good statistics. I mean, you know, I feel very confident. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be telling you I did this, right? But I'll be releasing something this week in great detail as to a physical. I like that. As far as the debates are concerned, you know, the system is being gamed because everybody said that I won the debate, you know, the so-called forum that your group put on. But they all said I won and that Matt Lauer was easy on me. Well, he wasn't. I thought he was very professional. I have to be honest. I think he's been treated very unfairly. But they all said that I won. And what they're doing is they're gaming the system so that when I go into the debate, I'm going to get be treated very, very unfairly by the moderators. So, I mean, I can see this is no different than the great Bobby Knight, who I'm a big fan of, and he endorsed me, and boy, did that mean a lot for Indiana, because I won in a landslide after getting Bobby Knight's endorsement. But Bobby would do numbers on the referee, and toward the end of the game, they would just sort of, you know, maybe subconsciously, they'd give him the calls. And, you know, he was a master at it. Well, they're doing the same thing now. They're saying about how Matt Lauer was nice to try. He wasn't nice to me. He was tough on me. He gave me tough. I answered him better than she did. The fact is that they're gaming the system. And I think maybe we should have no moderator. Let Hillary and I sit there and just debate, because I think the system is being rigged, so it's going to be a very unfair debate. And I can see it happening right now, because everyone's saying that he was soft on Trump. Well, now the new person's going to try and be really hard on Trump just to show, you know, the establishment what he can do. So I think it's very unfair what they're doing. So I think we should have a debate with no moderator, just Hillary and I sitting there talking.
All right, Mr. Trump, we appreciate all the time you've given us this morning. I know you've got some other things on your schedule, and we'll talk to you again soon, hopefully. But
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joe and Becky. Thank you.
You are
Thank you,
welcome.
Mr. Trump.
All right.
When we come back.